If you've struggled with stress, balance, or burnout, and simply feel discouraged or even defeated, and if you're ready to move from force to flow and enjoy ultimate Zen success in your career, health, or relationships, then the Zen Success Show is for you. Your host, Carissa Sims, is an entrepreneur, corporate consultant, best-selling author, meditation teacher, and healer who has found her own Zen success. Here's your host, Carissa Sims.
Welcome to this week's episode of Zen Success. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Beatty Carmichael. Hi, Beatty.
Hello, Carissa. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to connect with you.
I am
But
too. This has been a long time coming.
yes. Beatty Carmichael is a leading expert in spiritual laws and how they affect our health, emotions, and behaviors, which is so fascinating. I love that you're an expert in that. It's really important too. After 25 years in business, he uncovered a radical truth. Most pain, mental illness, sickness, and trauma aren't rooted in physical or emotional causes, but in the spiritual realm. By identifying and removing the specific spiritual roots behind these struggles, he's helped over 1,000 people find freedom from things like emotional wounds from relationship, conflict, chronic pain, anxiety, addiction, suicidal thoughts, and even bipolar disorder. Issues that medical science often can't resolve. Or may I say, they might make it worse. I have
They
seen that
usually
happen.
do. Yes.
Yes, issues that once the root is gone, the problem typically disappears in less than 24 hours with a documented 90% success rate. Beatty outlines this simple step-by-step method in his exciting book, The Prayer of Freedom, available at theprayeroffreedombook.com. So today he'll expose why so many people stay stuck and how anyone can experience real lasting healing by targeting the root issue most others overlook. Welcome.
Well, thank you. I am glad to be here.
So, Beatty, I would love to get an example of these root causes. Can you share one of your clients that came to you, let's say suicidal thoughts, or
Okay.
if you want to pick another one,
Yeah,
what
so
was the root cause of that, and how did your process help resolve that?
it's really interesting. There can be multiple root causes for the same issue. Like take depression and anxiety for a moment. A lot of times you can be depressed because you have unforgiveness towards someone. A lot of times you can have
That's
anxiety.
really
Yeah.
interesting. I've heard about the power of forgiveness, and I know about the Ho'oponopono, I love you, I forgive you, and I
Yeah.
know it is powerful.
It's actually more powerful than you think. Let me just give you an example. And so you have a spiritual root, which is, and just to define for people that are listening, a physical root would be something in the physical realm. Okay, so it's like you can actually go inside my body and see that I got a blood clot here, or I'm eating too much junk food over there. And
You
so
could
now
see it
I,
maybe on an MRI. You can,
yeah, something that you can measure in empirically
mhm.
through a physical test of some sort. But the spiritual side of things, you can't quite do that as easily. And we're made with a spiritual side of us, and we're made with a physical side. But the spiritual side actually governs most of the things that happen to us in the physical. So the spiritual root is somewhat elusive to identify, but very easy once you understand the process of kind of where to look. But just the biggest spiritual root that I find is unforgiveness.
Oh,
And
that's fascinating. I love
yeah.
that.
So let me share what I have seen simply when someone has forgiven someone else.
Yeah.
So I was working with one lady. She'd had rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years. On this particular day, it was flaring up. And she asked if I would pray with her or guide her on that. And I said, well, as I was about to pray for her, I asked her, do you have unforgiveness for anyone? She said, yes. I said, who was
Okay.
that?
So you're intuitive too. Are you a little bit
I'm into, well,
medical?
almost. Number one, it's the first thing I like to ask because it's like 60 or
Oh,
70% of everyone's issues, right? It handles the biggest issues usually right off the bat. But on that particular one, God actually placed it in my heart to ask her that question.
oh,
I was about to pray for her, and God prompted me to say, ask if she has unforgiveness.
okay.
So on that one, I kind of had a cheat card, okay? So I can't take any credit for
Thanks, God.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Appreciate it. Okay,
But
got it.
I was asking her what she did. She said, yes, it was my sister did something against my mother 20 years ago. So now you can put the correlation. She's had rheumatoid arthritis diagnosed, medically diagnosed. So it has a physical manifestation, but it's been with her about the same period of time as her unforgiveness toward her sister. So I asked if she would be willing to forgive her sister. She said yes. So I led her in a prayer, not even, and prayer is not religious. It's just verbalizing to a higher power. I call him God, but whatever people may want to call him. And I just had her say, God, I forgive my sister for what she did to my mom. That was
Hmm.
it. And then we said, God, would you take away her arthritis pain? By
Okay.
the end of the day, it was completely gone. 4 weeks later, she goes to the doctor. She gets a checkup. He retests her for arthritis. No arthritis in her body. Is permanently, completely gone. So that was unforgiveness. Then at Walmart, I'm going through the Walmart with a homeless couple named Brandon and Lanita. I met them outside the door, and they were just
Were
getting
you
their car.
buying them some things?
Yeah, they were just gotten a government apartment. They didn't have anything, so my wife and I said, "Well, let's go get you some things to kind
Oh
of
my
get it set
God.
up.
You're
Some pots
so
and pans."
amazing.
Yeah. Um, and while there, I got them a book on spiritual growth, and I was teasing Brandon. Lanita was carrying the book, and I was teasing Brandon as we're walking down one of the aisles, and I said, "You're going to have to steal that book from Lanita, otherwise you're not going to get a chance to read it." And Lanita said, "Oh no." Brandon reads everything to me because I can't read. And my heart kind of crushed. And I said, I'm so sorry. Did you never learn to read? She said, no, I know how to read. I just can't see to read. Everything is blurry. And she could not see the big, he had on a Levi's cap, and she couldn't even read the name Levi's on his cap just from a couple of feet away. And she couldn't see anything in the store. It was just all blurry. I mean, it was legally blind. It was that bad. When I gave her the book to try to read, she held it up literally about 3 or 4 inches before she could even read any of it. So as I was about to pray for her, God prompted this one again. And I said, do you have any unforgiveness for anyone? She said, yes. I said, who is it? She said, it's my ex-boyfriend. He grabbed me by the back of my head on the hair and pounded my head over and over again into the side of the dresser, busted out all my teeth. So she told me she had no teeth, top or bottom. So just really abusive.
That's
And I,
intense.
very intense. And I said, would you be willing to forgive him? She said, yes.
Oh,
So
oh,
watch this. Now watch
wow.
this. A lot of times
That is powerful to forgive severe
it's very
abuse.
powerful. But here's what's interesting, Carissa, is forgiveness is a choice. It's
Yeah.
not an emotion. We've been abused, we've been traumatized by someone. We hold those deep emotional wounds because we're not willing to let it go. But watch what happened. I simply said, would you be willing to forgive him? She said yes. It was now a choice. And what's happening, and what I find happens frequently in these things, is the context is I want to ask God to open your eyes, but would you be willing to forgive your ex-boyfriend? So now she's thinking, well, if this will help me see better, yes. See, and once we realize
So it's
there's
conditional. She was
maybe if there's a good reason to forgive, I'll be willing to forgive. Okay.
Mhm.
So I led her into the very same. Now, keep in mind, she's not welling up with emotion like, oh, I'm so sorry, I forgive him. No, it's simply, I forgive Bill for what he did to me. It was just a statement. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't even
It's
know if her
just
heart
like
was really there, but it's
very
just a
matter of
statement.
fact.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then I said, God, would you open her eyes? And I said, check it out. She says, I can see all the way to the end of Walmart. Can you read the sign on Brandon's hat? She said, yes. So then I opened up the book that I was getting them and held it about 4 feet away, and she read it word for
So,
word from 4 feet away. Instant
this all
eyesight.
happened instantly.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting. In the spiritual realm, there really isn't a time like we have. People who see in the spirit. I don't see in the spirit, but those people I've spoken to who see in the spirit, they say time doesn't exist there. You can see the beginning from the end.
What do you mean see in the spirit? Like clairvoyant? What is
I don't
seeing
really know. Like some
spirit?
people can see angels, some people
Oh
can
yeah.
see.
I
Okay,
mean, for me, in my definition, I would call that clairvoyant or
okay,
connected to the
yeah,
spirit realm.
right. So
I
maybe that's what it
sense,
is.
but I don't see I bet I can sense them.
Yeah, some people, and I'm finding over the years of doing this that some people have really clear vision, like they can actually go into the spiritual realm, and it's just like being in the physical. I
In
mean,
real, yeah.
everything they're literally living there while their body is here, and then others just kind of have a sense. And then you have people like me that I go, I know it exists, but I have no idea about it, right? I track everything empirically. Everything I know is through empirical data of testing things from
Hmm.
the physical realm, but knowing that it's happening in the spiritual and
Uh-huh.
seeing the impact
Mm.
and forgiveness. So I've then seen sciatica disappear, migraines
Okay.
disappear, all kinds of
Well,
things. And
I
so
wanted
what
to go
I'm,
back to this woman
yeah,
that had the vision and you had her forgive and she came from this like really neutral place, not emotional
right.
and then she was able to see. So I think I probably have that. I think I probably because I have blurry vision
Okay.
sometimes. Hmm.
All right.
And so there's no accident why you brought that up. So I just wanted to
Maybe.
mention that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I've seen, so I teach in an addiction recovery center as a volunteer and women's recovery center. And I was doing a on-camera testimony, one of the ladies going through this prayer of freedom process. No addictions, all chronic pain gone. She can now finally sleep at night, all kinds of things. But the day we were about to film, I was having her sign the talent release form. She said, I can't read it. My eyesight's been getting progressively worse over the last several weeks. And right now I've had to wear like 4.5 or 5x glasses just to read. And I said, well, that sounds like there's a spiritual root. So let's pray. And it was unforgiveness. She forgave someone there at the center, and instantly everything was cleared up for her.
Wow, that's
Yeah, so
pretty
I see this.
amazing. It's
So,
like
so,
miracles.
well, that is exactly what I'm seeing. Like, so let me share another spiritual root. So I'm talking with a friend of mine. He's my age. He maybe couple of years younger, but he was like 53, 54, or something like that at the time. This was just a few years back. And he's been having extreme hip pain. His name is Bud, and it's been progressively getting worse. And at this point, he's been walking with a crutch for a year and a half or almost 2 years, even around his house because it's that painful. And when he goes up a stairs, he takes one at a time, just because his hip is so bad. I said, what happened? He said, well, I had a football injury in college and it's been in pain ever since and progressively getting worse. The doctors say I need a hip replacement surgery. In fact, they've been telling me like 5 or 6 years I needed to get it replaced. And so I started asking him some questions, identifying potential spiritual roots that could have occurred back then. And the only thing that I found was he was sleeping around in high school, which is uh, it's a violation of God's standard. And that's basically what his spiritual root is a violation of God's standard that he puts in our conscience. So I said, would you be willing to repent of sleeping with those girls? He said, yes. And I had him test what's the pain level, and the pain in his hip was a 7. So I just led him to saying, God, I repent of sleeping with those girls. And then he just started naming them.
Yeah.
And then we said, God, would you take away his hip pain? And he's sitting in the chair. We're on the phone. I said, so stand up, bud, and check it out. So he stands up and he starts to cry. This big old football player guy. And he starts to just cry, and it takes him 2 or 3 minutes to regain his composure. And he finally makes it back to the phone and says, Beatty, I'm out of pain. The first time in 35 years, completely out of pain. I had him go up and down the stairs, and he could take him normal, right? Just like you and I do. They had a cruise schedule for a month later. He went on the cruise. This is now 2.5, 3 years later. I just spoke with him recently, still out of pain. I mean, it was like a miraculous recovery of his hip. And I see that so frequently because anytime you're dealing with something that's in the spiritual realm,
Hmm.
the time elements that we're accustomed to in the physical realm no longer apply. I've seen, in fact, where you and I met on that NPS
Yeah.
program, one of the ladies there that I was talking to was the editor at Psychology Today. And I was sharing that I've seen anxiety and depression leave within 12 minutes. She said, I'm a psychotherapist. That's not impossible. I mean, that's impossible. I don't
It's
even want
not
to talk to you because,
impossible.
yeah, it's like
That's good.
she wouldn't even talk to me because from her mindset, that's impossible. But yet, I
Yeah.
remember one lady, her name is Ashley.
Well, I want
And
to go back to this because this is
yeah,
so important. So we'll go
okay,
back to Ashley, but I want to have a little bit of dialogue. So you're
sure.
not just like going on to all these
Yeah,
different
I
cases.
could go on for an hour
Well,
with
I
all these
know, but
stories.
that's why I'm stopping you. So we have a
I'm glad you do.
conversation. Yeah, we have a
Yes.
conversation about it. So like she's in this mindset of not believing in miracles, not believing that there's a spiritual root. And so like she would not be on, she would not have you on her show because of this belief and because it would really negate the entire industry of psychology. It's not just
Yes.
her degree, it's like the
Everything.
entire industry blown out. And I think that's hard for people. So it's like, people maybe have tried everything else and then they come to you. But also, when you're talking about violating God's standard, like sleeping around. So, what can happen? So, let's talk about that at the root of it. So, is it like the energy of these women or shame that they're repressed? Like, how can that get trapped in the body and then appear as physical pain?
Yeah, so this now gets us into the deeper part of what I do. So get ready. Let me share it.
Oh, good. I'm glad I asked. You needed to drink water for that one.
Um, I have to take you on a short journey of how the spiritual side is set up as it relates to chronic issues in our life. So chronic issues would be anything from a chronic pain, a chronic sickness. Think about diabetes, think about
Cancer.
allergies and things like that. Chronic mental illnesses,
Uh-huh.
chronic relationship conflicts. So you keep getting in battles and keep fussing all the time, keep breaking one relationship, going to another. Even things that are chronic, like job failures, where you stay at a job for 1 year and then boom, you get fired or you leave, and then another one, and you can never hold down a job. Anything that's chronic, that's negative, almost always has its root in the spiritual side of things. And what
That's
happens is,
amazing. That's
yeah, I
amazing.
mean, I've seen it in my life. I mean, it's like, if we, depending on how long we have and how deep you actually pulled some stories out of me, I can get into. I'm trying to keep this, how should I say, genteel and not freaky, but it gets pretty
Oh,
freaky
no,
here.
go freaky. No, I mean, you don't know.
Okay, if you
I
want to go
like to
freaky,
go, I like to go freaky and
okay,
be, if
all right,
you're
so.
feeling called, if you're feeling called.
Hey, I love to tell the real story and not hold back, but I'm always cautious.
Oh yeah,
So
no,
let's
I'm not that type of show. I'm go,
Okay,
go,
great.
go.
So then let me start at the beginning and bring you up to date how I got here because this will
Oh,
start to
this
help
is
you
your
understand.
own journey. What
Yeah,
led you
yeah,
here? Oh,
yeah.
perfect, perfect.
So I come from a line of 7 generations of medical doctors, and so
Oh,
there's this calling on my family line for healing. I went into
Yeah.
business instead of medicine. Then 9 years
So
ago,
you were
God
like the
called.
black sheep, huh? Going into
Almost
business.
is my entire generation. You know what happened? I mean, because it's really interesting. So my granddad retired from surgery at 80 and retired from medical practice at 85. And all of my generations lived long and did that. And they loved medicine because they loved helping people.
Yeah.
With my dad's generation, everything shifted. It went from a profession of helping people to managed care to drive profits. And this is when the doctors went from being autonomous to becoming employees. Their practices were bought out, everything was merged. You have big practices,
Oh,
so everything shifted, and it shifted in a negative direction in terms of the altruism was no longer there. It was now about the money, and it was about
yeah.
just moving
Which
people
they
through.
had to
They
survive, right?
they had to in that environment. And that's why Dad told us don't go into medicine. He
Oh, he
really
planted
strong.
a seed.
Yeah,
Well,
so
yeah.
so the my entire generation, my level of generation, because it was not only my dad, but all of his uncles, all of his brothers, and all, all the way down the line. And it all stopped really at this generation. So I went into business 9 years ago. God called me back into healing, and He did it in a really unique way. He said, basically, start praying for people. So I'd walk up to people in Walmart and gas stations and grocery stores. And when I started, it was October 2016. And one third of the people I prayed for were instantly healed. They were getting out of scooters. Like one lady at Walmart, she had a degenerative discs in her neck and back. She had arthritis and lupus, and pretty much instantly all the pain left. She can move around. I've seen, I started to see arthritis leave, RSD leave. Early stages, one third of the people I prayed for were all pain. Then, about a year, within a year, 90% of the people I was praying for instantly healed. Glaucoma, cataracts, macular degeneration, post-operative surgery, just knee replacement on Monday, and now it's Saturday, and they're getting up doing deep knee bends, and the knee's totally healed. All kinds of things that we would legitimately call miracles.
But
During
how
that
is this
same,
process? Like you would go up to people or would you
yeah,
do it silently? You would
yeah,
ask
I
them,
walk up
"Can
and
I
say,
pray for you?"
"Hey, I'm not
Yeah, go
praying
ahead.
for people. Is there anything I can pray for you on?"
Uh-huh.
And sometimes they would have pain, sometimes it's just other things, but they said, no, I'm fine. So, well, do you have any pain or sickness you want God to get rid of? Like I remember one, the guy, one of my, there's some favorites along the way. One of my favorites, I was in Chick-fil-A and I saw this big old black dude come in on crutches. He's probably like 6'3", 300 pounds, has his family with teenage kids coming in, all muscle. And he sits down, his left knee is all bandaged up. And he slides into the booth. And I leaned over and said, "What happened to you?" He said, "I'm a tree cutter. And I was cutting trees on the ground and I turned to leave and my foot got caught. So he tore all of his ligaments in his knee. And I said, "Does it hurt?" He goes, "Oh, yeah,
I'm
it's
sure that
horrible."
sounds so painful.
Yeah. And so I said, "Well, would you like God to heal it?" And you got to picture the situation. I'm a little white dude,
I
155
know.
pounds, right? He's
This
this
is
big
like
old guy,
this is like some
twice my
kind of
weight.
movie,
Yeah, it was
like
just
you would
totally
be like, no one would do that.
right. Yeah, I mean, it was just, I look back at because the situation was so crazy that it was just fun. But he said, when I said, "Would you like God to heal it?" He said, "Well, I know God can." I said, "Well, that's not what I asked. I asked if you would like him to." Because those are two different questions.
Because you can have that awareness. Like for me, I'll have that awareness that we can heal ourselves, but actually asking for a specific healing to occur is so different and
Yes.
important, right?
Yes. You would ask, how does this work? It's only God at that time gave me a gift, what's called the gift of healing. So you pray for people and then he does the healing. So that's what happened with this guy. I said,
Yeah,
well,
you channel for God and then he,
that's right. I guess you'd
yeah.
say I'm channeling it. Then that's probably a really accurate term.
Mhm.
So I told him to swing his knee out so I could pray for it. And now he's kind of caught. He didn't really, he's kind of caught in this conversation. So he kind of swings his knee out, not sure what's going to go on. And
Yeah.
I
And
just
what's the
said,
whole family is like looking at
yeah, I
you?
got the kids over there at the other table and they're looking at, okay, what's going on with dad? What's that little white
Yeah.
skinny
Do we
dude
need to
doing?
save him?
Yeah, and the wife is standing in line ordering, and she's kind of watching this from afar. And
Oh, good. You had him by himself.
yeah, I got it. And I was there with this homeless guy with a great big mohawk, and so just the whole situation was crazy. But so I prayed for it real quickly. Like he said, his pain was a 10, and I said something like, God, I said, you just heal this knee be healed now. I said, okay, now stand up and check it out. I mean, literally, it's that fast. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, stand up and check it out. So he gets
Yeah.
his crutches, he gets up, and his eyes bug open. He goes, oh my gosh. I said, what happened? I said, it's a 4. I said, fantastic. That means you're going to walk out of here carrying your crutches. So I said, sit back down. Let me pray for you again.
It's a
He sits
4.
back
What does
down.
that mean on a scale of 1
From
to
a 10,
Oh,
on a scale of, it was a 10, then it dropped to a 4
for pain. Yeah.
in pain level. And so then I prayed again one more time and I said, now check it out. So he gets his crutches and rather than walking on them, he holds them up like this and he walks normally, no pain. And I said, come on, man, test it out all the way, do a deep knee bend. So he goes down all the way down, all the way up, totally healed. He carried his crutches out of there. So that was my life for about 6.5 years, praying for people.
Yeah.
But
Because you never asked for money. This is all like out of service. And
yeah,
then you had this ability to heal. And because, well, because I feel like I'm a channel for healing as well, like we all can be,
yeah,
but I actually charge. And I don't come up to people because I feel like I guess I feel differently. Like the people have their own process and our souls come in and it's important to have our journey and not take away the journey. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So anyways, I
So,
just
so
have a
some people
different
do charge, but for me, I'm running a business, so I'm just giving it away for free, I guess.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Um,
So what's your business that you
I help real estate agents get listings. It's a company called Agent Dominator.
Oh, got it. So yeah,
Yeah,
you make plenty of money from that. So this is just your
I
side gig.
let's put that in past tense. I made plenty of money from
Made
that.
plenty of
Right
money.
now, the real estate market is in the doldrums and is like
Oh, got it.
crickets everywhere. Yeah,
Well, at least yeah, you were there. That's great.
that's
Okay,
right.
so go back to this situation.
So, so that's the type of things I started to do. But at
Okay.
that same time, about the same, when I started hitting the 90% mark of healing, God took me into deliverance. And now this is where it gets a little bit wacky.
But what does
Deliverance
that
is
mean? Because
it's
I
casting out demonic spirits from people,
Oh
actually
yeah, I
engaging.
actually do that too.
Okay, okay. So you,
So
so
that's
you,
why,
you're pretty
your
crazy like
freakiest
me.
is
Yeah.
probably I've been there.
Okay, good.
Because
So
this is really important work that not a
yes.
lot of people talk about. I do that and a lot of other things, but I actually met someone, and I'm sure the Catholic Church would not like to hear about this, but he does it for hire for the Catholic Church. So
Yeah.
he'll fly in and do these, but I do it remotely. I do it over the phone. Mhm.
Well, so that's I would do it. I've done it remotely, done it in person, and
Mhm.
now I don't do it anymore because the Prayer of Freedom actually does it at a much better job.
Oh,
And
it just
so
automatically happens?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Because now, so keep in mind, this is my training ground to understand how spiritual roots impact physical issues.
Okay.
And then God took it all away from me. So
What does that
so
mean?
now
He
if
took
I
it all
pray for
away
people,
from
they
you.
don't get healed anymore.
What? Oh,
Yeah.
wait. He took it. What do you mean he took it all away? When? I
Uh,
don't
so
understand.
about 3 years ago, I'm out praying for people, 90% being healed, and then within 2 weeks, it went down to like nothing. And I said, God, what happened? He said, well, I took away your gift of healing. And I said, why? It was helping so many people. And he said, because now I want you to learn to do it through authority. And
Through authority. And what does that
you're
mean?
right.
Like you
Yeah,
write a
let me
book?
back up. Let me go back to deliverance to make it
Oh
clear.
yeah, deliverance.
Yeah,
Okay.
because all of this ties together. This is a great big pool of everything going on in my life, and I'm starting to see these
Okay.
patterns.
And you've
And
shared this on other shows, right?
right,
The deliverance. Okay. Good.
yeah. Um, and so what happened in deliverance is in deliverance, sometimes a demonic spirit, and so let me back up. In the spirit world, there are three types of spirits. Some people usually
In your
call them
opinion.
energy. Right. Well, three categories that I deal with. Okay.
Okay.
There's a lot more than just three, but
Okay.
those that I deal with, that I'm
Okay.
able to identify as groupings. Uh, and these are all the ones that are tied to issues in our lives. Okay. So one of them is an amplifying spirit. And by the way, I use the word spirit. Other people use the word energy, light
Energy.
energy, dark energy.
Yep.
Other people use the word vibration or frequency,
Okay.
high frequency, low frequency.
Hmm.
We're all talking about the identical thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So to correlate, so when I use the word spirit, if someone else uses frequency or energy, it's the same thing. So
Yeah. But
what,
I like that. I like spirit
well,
because
it
it
fits.
defines it more to me.
Yeah, right. And there are some spirits that are more than just energy, and I'm going to share that. So
Yes.
I've identified that there are these three categories that I work with. Number one is what I call an amplifying spirit. And what these spirits do is they come in when we open a door. So all of these doors are the legal rights, the spiritual roots when we violate God's standard that he placed into our conscience. So when we were created, God puts a conscience into us and he places his standards of right and wrong. This is why if we go out and do something wrong, a lot of times our conscience, we feel guilty about it. And no one
Yeah.
trained us that we should feel guilty. We just feel guilty. We know
Yes.
instinctively that we did wrong. So that's God and his standards and our conscience. And so when we
Hmm.
violate his standard, it opens up a door in our spiritual life that allows a spirit, I call them tormenting spirits, because it's always torment of something,
Hmm.
a tormenting spirit to come in and bring torment until we close that door, until we basically say, I'm sorry. So the amplifying spirit is simply a spirit or an energy source that amplifies our urge and our desire for that one thing that we did. So, for example, let's say that I get really upset at my wife and I just blow up in anger. Well, that's wrong. And when I do that, a spirit of anger will come in and make me angry all the time. And now the least little thing, and I'm just blowing up in anger and I can't stop it.
Oh
I'm going,
my
how,
God.
I'm just angry all the time. I don't want to be angry, but I'm just angry, right?
Yes. I
It
think that
amplifies it.
happened with my kid's dad. I really
Yeah.
do. Oh my God. It's
Yeah.
just
So you're
light
going to,
bulb went on.
okay. When I teach at the Addiction Recovery Center, there's a reason most addicts go back into addiction is because there's actually a spirit of addiction that amplifies the urge. And think
I
about,
believe that.
yeah.
Oh my
And
God. I
and when
love
you
this teaching. I love this teaching, Beatty.
when you amplify, you cannot resist.
Right.
At some point, you just simply can't resist. And that's why
Because
you
it's not even
constantly get
you
it.
almost. It's like the
That's
spirit
it.
is
That's
taking.
it. It's not you. That's the thing. That's the point I'm trying to make. And thank you.
Yeah.
You clarified it.
Yeah.
The Bible says, and all the spiritual laws that I learned from, I get from the ancient text of the Bible, and it makes a comment that when we do these things, it's not us doing it, it's this issue within us, right? And so it's not,
Ah,
for the addict who's trying to be good, they really don't want to get back into drugs, sex, alcohol,
right.
whatever their addiction is.
Hmm.
And they fall right back into it. And they'll tell you every time, I didn't want to do it, but I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't want to blow
Take
up
it
at
over
my
their
wife or my
body.
husband, but I couldn't not do it. So you have
Yeah.
addictions, you
Yeah.
have anger, fear, anxiety, lust, timidity, insecurity, name almost anything
Same.
that,
Yeah.
okay, so these are amplifying spirits.
And
Then
and
there's
you
a,
know, I've heard people that have that defense in court also.
Hmm.
saying it wasn't me. Isn't that interesting?
Well, I've seen it all the time.
Yeah.
If you
And,
want,
and
if you,
in a way, it's true, but because we're in the 3D world, it's not, court is not governed by spiritual laws and principles, so
yeah,
it's non-defensible, anyway.
that's right. So they claim mental illness. They claim
Yeah, that's right.
insanity because there's a great movie that was out. What is it called?
Well, you can
That
you can email me later.
Yeah, if I remember it, but it walks you through real clearly how what's going on. But so you have the amplifying spirits, then you have what I'll call infirmity spirits. You see infirmity spirits a lot with unforgiveness, and but more things than just unforgiveness. But an infirmity spirit is something that simply causes some sort of infirmity. Infirmity could be a physical ailment like
Uh-huh.
glaucoma or blinding eyes, or maybe your foot doesn't really work. You can't quite get it working. It will manifest as mental ailments, anxiety, bipolar disorder, borderline personality disorder, depression, all of that stuff. And then it can also manifest as physical pain. So you have a chronic pain that's been staying with you, especially if you've ever had an injury and the doctor said it should have been healed by now. Or you have a pain and the doctor says, I can't figure it out. So they give it the name syndrome or disorder, or they just say, I can't figure it out. In almost all cases, that's an infirmity spirit. And then the next level up, okay, you got low level is the amplifiers, then
Okay.
infirmity, and then in deliverance is the demonic spirit. And the demonic spirit is totally different. The demonic spirit, the ancient spiritual text with the Bible says that we don't wrestle against people of flesh and blood, but against persons without bodies. And that's a demonic spirit. It is an actual person. They just don't have a physical body. So think about this. The who you are,
Is that
Carissa,
like
is
without a soul, like
no,
that
it's a soul without a body.
a
So right, so
soul without a body? Okay, got it.
you have a soul, that's your spiritual part, and you have a body, that's your physical part.
Yeah,
And your soul is your mind, will, and emotions. It's everything about you. Your body is just a container that's
that's
operating
right.
in this physical realm. Okay. So a demon spirit, demonic spirit, is a evil soul with no body.
Okay.
It's in the spiritual realm. And because it's a spirit, it can occupy someone's body along with you. And many of them can actually occupy along with you.
Uh-huh.
So if you've ever heard someone say, I hear these voices in my head,
Yep.
that's going to be a demonic spirit. If you ever, someone that I keep hearing this voice, kill yourself, that's a demonic spirit.
Yep. I had
Um,
that as a preteen,
yep.
but
Okay.
but I wasn't aware of this.
Right. Most
Um,
people don't. They just think it's them because they don't
yeah.
understand this whole realm.
But what's interesting? I had a friend and I wanted to help her with this because she was hearing voices and she was like really embarrassed and thinking that she would get sent to a mental institution.
Yeah.
And I think she has Christian roots and and you are have such a strong faith and belief and I love how you're integrating this. It's so needed. And so she just didn't want to hear that it could be, well, I didn't say a demon, but I said I feel spirits because
Yeah.
I don't have that awareness that you do. And I'm just feel so blessed to meet you because you're teaching me and it's really helpful.
Good. Well, there's a lot there.
Yeah.
And most people, by the way, in my book, I never use the word demon because it scares people.
It does.
So uh,
It does. And I don't really talk about it. Like this is
I
first
don't either,
time I've
but
talked about it
this
on
is
my
like, hey, we're
show.
going to take the gloves off and we're going to be, as candid and
I feel like
transparent.
it's time. It's
Yeah.
people if they don't want to hear it, they can just turn it off at this point. Yeah. Because it's important to face. I feel like it's the truth of our reality.
So you can see it in society. Look at the wave of evil that's been crossing the
Mhm.
globe and people doing extremely evil things.
Mm-hmm.
Evil is done through the demonic spirit, not an infirmity spirit and not an amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what's happening. But when I first went into deliverance, and by the way, none of this is religious. For the audience that, well, I'm not religious.
Yeah,
As
this
long
is
as, right.
spiritual.
This is all spiritual. And the first time I did a deliverance, it was what I call a full-on manifestation. So one of the ladies I prayed for over at Walmart, and we just kept a relationship, she asked me to come over. She said, I've got demons. Can you get rid of them?
So she
And
already
as
knew.
Oh, she could see them.
Oh, and she
They
saw them.
she
Okay.
sees saw them in her house. She would hear them. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they're very for some people they're very clear that. And if you ever really have a demon that's a controlling demon, sometimes people will have something that it kind of stays in the background, but others that are moving more toward the foreground, you know it. You know there's something in there. Like I remember there was a friend of mine does this type of work, and she was working with a 4-year-old boy, call him Zach. And Zach was uh, just really evil. He had just a couple that week, he held up a knife, said to his granddad, said, I'm going to kill you and my sister with this knife
Oh,
as a 4-year-old,
wow. And
right?
and
And it
and
was
and
a
it's like,
deep.
you think that he's joking
Well,
because
no,
he's a
they knew
little
this guy
kid.
wasn't joking because for 2 years he'd been violent. There's like something strange with him. And then when it got to that point, they said, okay, we need to take him somewhere. And this sounds like a demon, right? And so my friend Phyllis, as she was casting these things out, commanding things out,
Oh, okay,
the
so she knows how to do that
she
too.
she knows how to do it exactly. And she trained me on some of this years back.
Uh-huh.
She said God put in her heart to command out a spirit of murder and violence. And she said, no, that must just be my own thoughts. This is a 4-year-old boy. And then she ignored it. And then the mom who's there in the room tapped her on the shoulder and said, Phyllis, I think God wants you to command out a spirit of murder and violence.
Oh, she
So she
got the
said, okay.
intuitive hit. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, so she commands out the spirit of murder and violence, and all of a sudden, little Zach, 4-year-old boy, starts choking like this, starts to fall down on the ground, and he couldn't breathe. And after about 30 seconds, he went, "Oh, it's gone,
Yeah, and
it's
he
gone." And
uh-huh.
so what he understood it was there. But here's the interesting point, because this helps understand some other parts of the spiritual realm.
Mm-hmm.
They sent the boy out to play with the dad in the waiting room. And then Phyllis was talking to the mom and she said, a lot of times these spirits come out the same way they came in. And it sounded like this was a choking spirit, like he was choking. Has Zach ever been choked before? And the mom said, yes, 2 years ago, a bully on the playground choked him, actually created bruises all over his throat. He squeezed so hard. And we found out later, watch this. We found out later that that boy's brother and father were in prison for murder. So now you see the
Oh,
spirit,
he had the
this
frequency of that.
the right. You call it frequency. I'd call it the demon, a spirit that has
Uh-huh.
transferred, and simply through the trauma of the bully who has a spirit of murder and violence, traumatizing and basically trying to kill that little boy at
Uh-huh.
2 years old, it transferred the spirit. So watch this. Here's some things that a lot of people don't recognize. If you've ever been abused and traumatized by someone, and
Yeah.
now you seem to exhibit some of the same negative behaviors as that person, it's because spiritually, these spirits can transfer through trauma. If you've ever slept with someone outside of marriage and you seem like you picked up their depression or anxiety or all these other issues, same things that they've been going through, now you see the same patterns of issues in your life. It's because it can transfer spiritually. And so a lot of times there are things that transfer that, and that's how these demonic spirits will work as well, is they can transfer from one to another, almost like a virus. You get too close, you interact with someone in a negative way, and now you can carry it as well. I remember Phyllis was sharing another story of a lady named Madonna. She was 49 years old on hospice care, which means 6 weeks to live. She was dying of Parkinson's, and at this time she was Parkinson's is a neurological disease that eliminates your ability to move your skeletal muscles. And so at this time, the only muscle she could move was just her little pinky. And she, Phyllis was asking, well, how did you catch Parkinson's? And Madonna was saying, you can't catch Parkinson's or you wouldn't be in this room. She said, my husband had it. And after he died, I was diagnosed with it. So Phyllis, understanding these spiritual laws, she said, well, did you ever sleep with your husband before you got married? And she said, yes, but what does that have anything to do with this? And she explained about sex outside of marriage is violating God's standard and things can transfer. And she said, that makes sense. So Phyllis led her into simply nullifying that spiritual root, getting rid of it. She came back the next week for her next week, and Madonna was sitting up in bed. All the color had come back to her face, and they just chit-chatted the whole time. And then Phyllis came back on the third visit, 2 weeks after the first visit. Madonna's not there. She went to the nurse's station and said, where's Madonna? She said, oh, we discharged her earlier this week. From being on death's bed to walking out of there on her own, simply by getting rid of a spiritual root, and the infirmity spirit of Parkinson's left. So back to the story of how of all this, as I started to do deliverance, the way deliverance works in this type. So my first deliverance was a full-on manifestation, meaning that the demon spirits, it was a whole bunch of them, would take over that person's body and look at me, and cackle at me and laugh at me, and I would take authority over them and command them out. But the way that you do deliverance in a very simplistic sense is, number one, you identify that spirit by name. So you could either, a lot of times these demon spirits give them names like Seth or Marcus or Lucifer, things of that sort. Then, this is the key. And this is what I was talking about, legal rights that you were asking about. So this is bringing it back to fruition, legal rights and authority. The second step is you ask it, interrogate it. What is your legal right to be in that person? And that legal right, 100% of the time, is violating one of God's standards. The Bible calls it sin. It just means that you miss the mark of God's standard. So then the third step is you get the person to confess that they were wrong in doing it. Like one of the spirits, I said, what's your legal right? He said, Josh was playing with a Ouija board at 7 years old. And Josh said, I didn't want to do that. I didn't mean to. My sister was communicating to me with it. And so that's all it took. So I had him confess, God, I confess that was wrong. That's it. Just confessing that we were wrong. And then you can get the spirit out. So after going several years through deliverance in that process of interrogating spirits, identifying their legal right, which is a sin all the time, and then getting the person to confess that sin was wrong, just to own up to it. That's all it takes to remove the legal right, that spiritual root, and then you get it out. So as I started to see how people were instantly healed when I commanded these demonic spirits out, and they were instantly healed when I was praying for them at Walmart, I started to understand it's all a spirit, different types of spirit, but it's all a spiritual entity leaving, and that's why they were instantly healed. So back to about 3 years ago, when God took away my gift of healing, and I was asking him why. He said, because now I want you to learn to do it by authority. And I clearly understood what he meant. It meant to lead people into confessing that they were wrong with whatever God brought to their mind as the source of their issue. So now I would go out to Walmart, and rather than praying for them, I would say, can I just lead you in a short prayer? Yes. And I said, just have them ask God to reveal to them anything that they did wrong that could be tied to whatever their issue was. And then I would lead them to confess it as wrong. The Bible word is, I repent of that. And I saw right immediately back to 90% success rate and more dramatic things. God then told me to write a book about it, which is the Prayer of Freedom.
Okay.
And what I did is I outlined 18 different categories that I've been seeing how these things come in. And so, like at the Addiction Recovery Center where I teach, it's one of the largest women's addiction recovery centers in America. They house over 500 women. And my class is the favorite because for every 20 women who come in with addictions and chronic pain and mental illnesses and allergies and everything else, nearly 18 of them leave with all of it gone in less than a month. And watch this. This is the cool part. I don't pray for them and I don't pray with them. I simply give them my book and I make space for them to do the exercise in the back. It's just a few pages of these 18 categories, making a list. And then there's a structured, specific words that you use in the spiritual realm to nullify that. And so completely on their own, without any intervention from me, they're getting healed on their own simply by turning off all of these spiritual roots that have been the source of their problems. And back to this lady named Ashley, I was going to share. She's one of the ladies there. She was raped at 5 and 6 years old by her dad and by her uncle. And she had all kinds of other boy issues and abandonment issues. She's been extreme trauma. At the time I met with her, she had a 1-year-old and 3-year-old that had heavy asthma and taking medication. She was on 400 milligrams a day of Seroquel to calm her nerves. She was on Buspirone and
We don't have to get into all the drugs she was
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Let's
There
get
are
to the
three drugs,
story.
but she was heavy anxiety, panic attacks, uh, borderline personality disorder, bipolar, and depression. She went through this one day and woke up the next day, and it was literally 100% gone. She went to her psychiatrist. She can get all you can stop all the medications if you don't need it. So that's what I'm seeing with this, Carissa,
Yeah.
is the authority of just saying I'm sorry to God to these things, and then a structured process on how to get rid of these things. So I don't do deliverance anymore because this is much more effective for them.
Oh, yeah. And plus it's empowering
It's empowering
the
them.
individuals, and that's probably like why God was like transitioning you to
That's
this
it. Yeah.
first, for you to see that everyone can have this power. But if someone listening today feels hopeless, what's the first step they can take to find real freedom?
The first step is to check out my book, and the best place, because you if you just type it in Amazon or Google, you'll get
Uh-huh.
so many searches. But if you go to the website, theprayerfreedombook.com, so just add the name book at the
Yeah.
end. I've got information on the book, a link straight where you can buy it. There'll be discounts and things. So that's the best
Go
place
to
to
the
go.
website. Yeah.
Go to the prayerfreedombook.com website.
So what's next for you? Are you going on tour or what's on the
Yeah.
agenda?
So next is getting the word out. And
Okay.
then I've already done a deep masterclass program for those who want to dig a lot deeper. We haven't released it yet, but I want to launch the masterclass program for those who really want to get more involved in helping others. I'm doing a 6 week sort of like a invite people over to your house or take it to a prison ministry, some sort of like
Oh, cool.
a video study that will guide people through this, that will then guide them into what happens with the book and the process. And eventually, I just want to create a movement of, around the world, there's so many people hurting, Carissa, that need help. And right now, especially, addictions are on the rise, trauma is on the rise, abuse is on the rise, uh, evil is on the rise, pain, anxiety, everything is just going beyond controls, and we need help. And
Mm.
this can give people that help that they need.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And what is then success to you?
Success to me is people getting free.
Yes.
And I don't have to I don't have to share. You don't make money off of a book, right? Unless you're selling millions and millions and millions of copies.
Right.
Um, and so success, when I was asking, I didn't want to write the book. I had a business I was running. I had to ask God 3 times, and every time his word was exactly the same. He says, set my people free. So for me, that's success.
That's success. Well, it's been a pleasure connecting with you and learning from you. And I love the title of your book, The Prayer of Freedom. I'll put your website and how to buy your book in the show notes. So thanks for joining me on the Zen Success Show.
Well, thank you for having me. This has been a lot of fun and a real pleasure with you.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode of Zen Success. Head on over to iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or wherever you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show and share with friends. Be sure to head on over to ZenSuccessShow.com to help you on your Zen success journey. And join us on the next episode. May you find your own Zen success in life.